How's it going? Can anybody hear me? Getting started here. Let everybody kind of filter in.
Hello. Let's just say hi while my camera's off. It's Rachel Dieterich.
Oh, hey.
Thanks for having the class. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of things on Facebook and all over the country. Agents are having issues with the current market. It's kind of amazing that we have such a busy, good market, but have so much struggle in it. So Amber and I talked, and we thought that it would be a good idea to maybe get on here and not necessarily teach a class, but just kind of talk about some things and maybe some strategy and some mindset and ways that you can improve your odds on what you're up against in this competitive market, and just put yourself and your clients in a better position. So personally, I think it's been a couple years since I've sold a house, at least been on the buyer side. So, but I see things on the seller side that I can share some things with you guys. But really, Amber, she's a very buyer heavy business, and a lot of them are VA, and there's a lot of stigma about VA and all that. So I'm really grateful that she's going to spend her time and talk a little bit about some of the things that she's experienced, and wins and losses, and I just kind of hope this kind of turns into maybe some Q&A. You guys feel free to interact and talk, and let's see if we can be helpful. So Amber, how's your day going?
Well, I'm super pregnant, but
like 16-month pregnant.
I'm just forever pregnant. No, but I'm excited to be here. We were talking earlier, and there's just a lot of, frustrations going on right now. It's a tough market. And because we've been so buyer heavy for so long, I'm more than happy to be here and mastermind with other people, and also bring some positivity to the craziness that we're seeing, because, it's really unfortunate when you're in it, and you have to continuously Dr. Phil your clients and try to keep them motivated, and you're feeling frustrated. But if you're strategic with it enough and you hang in there, and you're all in with it, you really do see those success stories still, and you get them to the finish line, and that's the priority.
It doesn't look like her.
Oh, it doesn't? What? Who doesn't look like who? Yeah. So to add to that, I think one of the most important things that we can lead our clients with is faith and hope. And if you start getting down in the dumps and you start being negative with your buyers start reacting the same way, and it really affects the outcome. So when you're working with a buyer and you're getting prepared to write an offer for them, and ultimately presenting it to the seller's agent, go through some of your talks and your process with it, and how do you present it to the seller's agent?
Yeah. So for the buyer side of things, I think a consult is like a must. I mean, all the time, but especially now. So our buyers are already ready, for what to expect. We don't do the rainbows and butterflies. I'm a very direct person with, not freaking my buyers out, but they're with us because they trust us. And so they don't want you to, sugarcoat the market. Right. And so they're 100% ready. So we get them all ready. We write a full package, and I call the agent. My showing specialist does a group text now, because we find that a lot of agents don't answer their phones, which, being on the listing side, I don't get mad at that, because you have 80 people calling you every 5 seconds, and so we'll just go straight into a group text. And before we even show, just kind of seeing what that looks like, and what the offer situation looks like, building that rapport right off the bat. I think that's important, especially I just had somebody at my listing last week that didn't call me or anything and didn't read the agent remarks. And, you know, we were reviewing like right then. So we always want to do that first. And then if they love it, I give them a call. And again, it's all about building that rapport and planting the seeds, you know, of why they're going to want to work with us, why they're going to want to work with my buyer. And I'm asking all of those questions of how many offers do you have? You know, a lot of people won't tell you much, but if you don't ask, you don't know. And I will tell you that I gain a lot more information than I think a lot do, because they're scared to ask, because they're scared for somebody to be like, well, I can't tell you that, or tell you no. And, you know, and I have people where they're like, Amber, you know, I can't tell you that. Right. But a lot of times I get the answers that I need. I'm also listening to the tone in their voice, and trying to pick apart that to see, you know, what may give that away. I'm huge on psychology. So I'm listening and I'm looking for anything. And then again, I'm just telling them why they want to work with us. I tell them we're a team. I tell them I'm 100% full-time agent. This is what we do. And for us, we're heavy on the VA side, of course. And I just call out the elephant in the room and I tell them, you know, it's a VA buyer, but reason A, B, C, and D is why you're going to want to work with us over anybody else. You know, and I talk about the lender. I talk about all of the package together, not just the purchase price.
Well put. Yeah. So having everything packaged, quality, and upfront, having buyers' expectations in the right place definitely is helpful. It's something that we've always talked about is always have hope. Always, you know, what you're gonna probably lose out on some offers, but you keep going. You keep.
Oh, I think he froze. Can you guys still see me, or is it me that froze? Is it him that froze? Okay. He'll probably come back. But yeah, you guys, I mean, that's the biggest thing. And it's kind of shocking how many people, when I'm on the listing side now, don't call me, don't reach out, don't even tell me that I have an offer. And I will say how you treat other agents really does come into play a huge part. And not only when it's that agent that you're talking to at that time, when you're on the listing side, when you're on the buyer side on another transaction, because our industry is so large, but it really is a tight knit community and you will see those people again. And so that's the biggest thing for me that I've seen being on the listing side now more than I've ever been. You know, it's a little shocking just how people treat each other. For me, I'm always professional. I'm always 100%. I always go the extra mile because I know I'm going to see these people again. And when I do, I want them to like me because people, you know, agents have a huge part in what they're advising their sellers. And you have to remember that. And even when you lose, you know, we lose quite a bit as well, especially in this market. I'm never rude. I don't complain at them. I don't try to, you know, make their day a bad day. I congratulate them, congratulate their sellers. I always ask for feedback on how I can, you know, how I can get better next time, how I can educate my buyers. That feedback is huge if they'll give it to you. And then next time I'll realize that I did see them again. And then they're like, oh yeah, Amber, I remember you. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit more because I know the type of person that you are. Hey, Bobby.
Hi. My
Welcome
internet
back.
just took a crap. I switched to my phone. So Kim, you're on here.
I am. Hi.
Hi. Kim recently got a couple contingent offers accepted. How did that happen?
Nice.
It's not easy, but I will say I'll kind of repeat a lot of what you're saying. The biggest thing I try to do is really build rapport and build a relationship with that agent early on. I try to text more than call just because I know how that is. Your phone rings and it's tough sometimes to repeat the same question. biggest thing for me is just, showing the whole package, making sure that that agent knows we're professional, we're easy to work with, we're very motivated. We have very motivated buyers, and we will close. We're not going to fall apart in the middle, and we will get it done. And that we're good communicators, good to work with, and super responsive. I will say it's really important to read everything in that listing. Make sure that you read the comments and understand them. I don't ask questions that are already answered in the listing, which I think is super common. Make sure that you pull those supplements and that you read them and understand them. I try really hard to see if I can understand the sellers and their motivation and how we can help them make this easy, how we can help make their lives easier. Sometimes it's not always what you'd expect that's important to those sellers. So don't assume that and try to find out as much as you can.
Well
Yeah.
put.
I think that's super smart. That's a script I use on every single offer we write when I'm talking to the listing agent is I will start it with, I know net price is always important. I started saying that when I got laughed at a few times. Obviously net's important, so I'll preface that. I know net price is always important, but is there anything else super important to your sellers? And like Kim said, so many times it's not what you think it would be. It's not always the price. Really, there's a lot of emotions that go in, obviously, on the seller side. So I think that's super smart.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes just not having to remove something or not have to take a load of garbage to the dump or something like that might be it. Who knows? They want to leave the chickens. Who knows?
So I've asked, hey, this is Rachel. So I've asked that question so many times, and I preface it like Amber does. And my challenging part is I'm not getting anything. And so I'm just like, what is a way to get that answer? Like, is there some kind of wacky thing that is important to the sellers? So what is another way to preface that question? Because all I ever hear now is price, price, price. That's all that really matters. And it's getting to be a little old.
You usually, instead of asking what's important to your sellers, I generally will ask, why are your sellers moving? Do they have a place to go? Are they still looking for a place to go? And ask more open-ended questions, I guess, just to get a conversation going and kind of understand their motivation versus, just a what's important.
Yeah, I think so too. And Rachel, I hear that a lot too, and a lot of times they'll be like, well, just net, and depending at that point where we're at in the situation, like Kim said, I would 100% go deeper, because you have to realize too, not everybody is the same type of agent as you are, right? And so sometimes they might not even know, which I'm shocked by, but it is something that happens, is they don't really dig deep with their sellers. And so if I see a bunch of chickens in the backyard, maybe ask that specifically. Do they want to keep those there? Would that be easier for them, or would they like to get rid of them? Why, like Kim said, why are they moving? Would they rather, stay there a little bit longer, house close date, kind of thing, and dig deeper, and not just get that lazy answer. And I say lazy, I mean, not that it's always lazy, because a lot of times it would be just price. And I have sellers that are like, Amber, I really don't care. I want as much money as possible. But a lot of times I've noticed that when you dig a little bit deeper, it really is a lazy answer, and they just kind of want to get off the phone. So if you don't take that, quick answer right away and just keep digging a little bit and have that balance, not to annoy them, but work hard for your buyer, I'm interested to see if you see a little bit of a difference.
I think it's important to remember that even when as I just went through this with my listing, where we had a thorough conversation multiple times because it took a while to get it to market. about what their needs were. And ultimately, this was their last big sell. This will be their last big capital gain. They are retiring. And part of it was they were conveying a lot of not just appliances, but 4 TVs and brackets and, you know, just all kinds of wonderful things that they were going to leave behind. They even made a list of things that they were willing to sell, and those all went into the listing for the buyer. Okay, so here we've had just an intense conversation. We're getting ready, we're signing the listing paper. We've got all of this ready to go. And once again, they say to me, I'm ready to see the green. We've done everything we can. The house is ready. We're ready. We've packed it up. We've decluttered. We've given things away. We're giving things away. And we're going to offer for sale all of this stuff. And we're sizing down and we're excited. We don't have to sell, but we're excited, right? And when you come back to the table with 9, 10, 11, 12 offers, they didn't even have a clue until you start laying it out for them, the questions to ask about what was important. Okay. It wasn't that we hadn't had an extensive listing consultation, because we had. But then when things started to come out on the table with the summaries, and they began to realize that it wasn't just simple A, B, C, D, E. It actually looked like A followed by F, G, Y, Z came on that offer. And they're like, whoa, I hadn't even thought about that. Even though we had discussed and gone through combinations of offers when we did our listing appointment, okay? They didn't, all of a sudden they began to realize some of the things that were more important to them that they hadn't even thought of.
Mhm.
And I was taken aback when I heard them start to have epiphanies, right? While we're in the summary and review. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start talking about these things that are important, and let's move to the left or the right, the offers that are coming in that have some of those components that now you realize might be more important. And it was quite a learning session this last one. You know, I think we all know we're getting 10 plus offers. You know, I had 17 on the Ainsworth house. We had 8 on this one. We had, let's see here, 8, 6, 6, 12, 20, 22 showings over 3 days where we had to be on site to do the showing. And there was something I learned from that too, and I wanted to share that today. Some of you guys on the screen have done listing agent on site for all showings, but a lot of you haven't. And I think there was a lot to be learned by being there. We built a rapport. I was able to build a rapport with each and every buyer's agent while they were right there in front of me with their clients, right? And having conversations about the features and the benefits of this property, and how I knew the listing agent knows the most how to sell that, right? That buyer's agent could have never shown that house the way I did. And it helped them write offers with their clients. I thought it was a long, long weekend, but it was really, really interesting. And maybe that's one of those things that in the future I'll try to do more of, is to be on site with my seller's permission in order to enhance the relationship between us and the potential buyers.
I think there's a lot of ill will and bad feelings out there with buyers too, buyers agents. That's not a bad idea. Meeting with them and show them that you're a real person and not somebody who's out playing golf and listening to their phone, that you got a job to do too, you know?
Yeah, and I introduced myself each time they would come up. I would have the buyer's agent log into the box and just put it right back. And then their clients would come up with them and they're like looking at me like, well, why is she here, right? And so I would just introduce myself and say, hey, my name's Debbie. I'm the listing agent for the sellers today. And at their request, we're going to do a few things from COVID safety. And then I'm going to show you this property on behalf of your buyer's agent. And they were like, oh, okay. And very, very open, a lot of conversation, a lot of questions. As they were going through, they were asking both of us questions, but there was no ill will or competition going back and forth between the buyer's agent and me. And I can clearly say to you that out of the 20 showings, all 20 buyer's agents thanked me for me being there, or for Cherie being there on the day that she was there. So just an idea. I don't know. It just seemed to work really well.
I think that's great too. What you said, Debbie, about, having that consult and not realizing, the sellers not realizing what they need. I just went through that as well. And we have a full consult and I ask all the questions and everything. And Rachel, that's also why I'm a huge advocate for not blanketing anything, because there's so many different scenarios and there's so many different agents out there. My seller, even during the review just a couple weeks ago, I asked him again, is closing date important to you? I knew that they were moving, I knew that, they were looking at buying another property. And I kept asking those questions. They were so anxious about the situation that they were like, nope, whatever, let's just go in at the 30 days and that's great. And, 4 days into contract, they wanted to change the closing date because it was actually important to them. And so that's something that does happen as well. And that's why too, never to blanket a situation when you're talking to a listing agent and not blanketing all listing agents together, even if they say a similar answer, it's always a different situation and you're looking for that one little hole in or shoe in where you can, get a success story out of it.
I wanted to ask you guys, I was so glad that my Vashon showings got canceled today, but because I wanted to ask you guys about strategy. I on the PC team, my role is to teach contracts, and not necessarily strategy with contracts, but contracts, how to fill them out, which ones to use, blah, blah, blah. And on the listing side, we're seeing combinations of some of the weirdest packages. Okay, like you'll get a form 21, but then you'll get a 22AA instead of a 21 now, or a 22A. And if you get the 22AA, then you almost always get an AD. But if you don't get an AD, when do you choose to use a 22AA versus a 22A? And why is that more impressive I know what I think my answer is, but why is that more impressive to the seller? By using the 22AA versus the 22A.
Only if maybe there's something in there that has less likelihood to fail. If there's less of a likelihood for the transaction to fail, then one might be better than the other.
Well, the premise of a 22AA, as I understand it, is you've gone far enough with your lender that you're fully underwritten, and maybe and for instance, the buyer that picked up on this listing over the weekend, they had been in a transaction and were 4 days from closing when the house burnt to the ground. Now, some of you will remember that Julie Berquist actually sent a note out to us. She was the agent lister that represented them when this happened. And so here they came back. This is the house they're bidding on my listing. And when I did my interviews, my due diligence with the lenders, which I spent a lot of time talking to the lenders before I ever present these summaries, I had a conversation with the lender who was with Quicken Loans. And I said, well, Mary, if they were that close to closing, what would keep them from waiving the financing addendum altogether? And she said, appraisal, simply appraisal. So they could have written to us a 22AA as opposed to a 22A, waiving off all the parts of the financing addendum except the appraisal. And that would have been my way to tell the sellers, wow, these guys are like, they could, if we had an appraisal tomorrow and it came in at value and our 22, or even if it didn't, but the 22AD covered it because they attached the 22AD, I know these buyers are going to be able to close and close quicker than buyer B. So that, go ahead, Kelly.
My tummy, just scared to my tummy. If you are using a financing, it must be disclosed. If you have an undisclosed finance and you go and do a 22AA, you are SOL.
Okay, that's why I'm asking this, because I'm seeing this coming in on listing, on
finance
sales.
Agreement says that your purchase and sale agreement says if you are going to bring cash, so you can use the 22AA for the appraisal if you're coming 100% cash.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have to disclose that it is a finance even if it's not a contingency, you can waive the contingencies of the finance, but you must disclose that it is a loan. And we're not just talking about the normal govies, we're talking about hard money loans. A loan is a loan is a loan is a loan. So if there's anything, it needs to go on a 22A. A hard money loan does not go on an EF, it goes on a 22A.
So if you do the 22A and you waive the financing except for appraisal, which is the new paragraph 2, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it would be what we would rather we did is just run the whole contract with the full benefits of being able to use the paragraph 1A on the 22A. But if you want an automatic waiver, then do the 22A paragraph 2B.
Right, okay.
And then you can adjust when it would waive.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I just want to understand what the strategy would be.
It's more than likely they're not disclosing that they're coming with cash. They're acting like they've got cash, but they're not.
Okay.
So something that I've been seeing lately with a lot of Facebook posts and lab coat agents and all those different things is there's a lot of buyer's agents out there struggling right now. And I think the biggest thing that you can possibly do is always provide hope to your buyer and yourself to, you know, it's going to happen. If you keep doing the right things and focusing on the process, it's going to happen. But if you start to veer off of that, your buyer is going to pick up on that. Your paperwork's going to pick up on that. And I mean, we've gotten offers on some of our listings. It's like, this person is clearly just given up. You know, keep in your head, you know, it's gonna work out. It's a very challenging market for everybody, including sellers agents. I mean, it's a tough place to be put in. So, you know, the thought that, you know, listing agents just kind of sitting back laughing and counting their money is not a good way to go into it. And being cool. One thing that I have always said when we're doing training on negotiating and something like that, and one of the things that I always try to picture myself doing is I'm literally just sitting there having a beer with this person. You know, we're on the phone or whatever, but that's how I project myself. Like we're just kind of hanging out. And sometimes if you're not getting anything with the listing agent, you know, kind of taking a step back and maybe cracking a joke or something, you know, some way to kind of chip away at the ice, you know, can sometimes work. You know, if you're really trying to dig deep with an agent, sometimes just cracking a joke breaks the ice, and then they start giving you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Kim.
That is great. Thank you. Cause I like to have friendly, I like to have like, you know, be professional, but also be friendly conversations. So it does feel like that and not so robotic. And so, hey, take our offer, you know.
Everybody's saying that. Everybody's buyer walks on water. Everybody's, you know, gonna die if this doesn't happen. You know, all that is coming from everybody. Yeah. So you got to kind of be a little different and be somebody that agent wants to talk to for the next 45 days, you know?
Yes. And so that's why I'm like coming up like, hey, let's make this work and let's work together and like being their buddy, but also like, I got my shit together and we're not going to drop the ball on anything.
Yeah, being their buddy with class. You're not totally kissing their butt or anything, but
that is exactly it. Being their buddy with class.
And I've noticed it too, that sometimes I'll say things like, I'm not going to guarantee anything because that would be crazy. But I can tell you the likelihood of anything going wrong would be, you know, definitely better with us. And if there is something that goes wrong, what I do all day, what I spend all day is solving problems, and we'll come up with a solution. So sometimes not saying that this is going to be perfect, this is a slam dunk, but throwing a little reality into it, I think, you know, makes me feel better when I can tell that it's not just smoke being blown. you know, that it's someone who's real and who's also had enough experience to know that they don't know everything, you know, and things can happen, but how you handle them is the most important thing. So even with the slam dunk, no contingency cash buyer in 2 weeks closing, there can still be problems. So
Well, we know, at least we hear, and Jonathan always tells everybody that cash buyers are the quickest to walk. You know, they're the quickest to walk. So we turned away in that series of offers over the weekend. We turned away 2 very strong, fully fledged cash offers that were well above list, because my buyers or my sellers were more in tune to the other the other type buyer. I wanted to ask this question for you guys. How are you, especially Amber, with your VAs? Okay, how are you? And we have a lot of buyers that don't have tons of cash in that 350 to 500 range, and they're maximizing their FHA loans or their VA loans. How are you helping them strategize the 22AD?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's the consult, really. Again, our consult is gold for us. If I didn't sit down with every single buyer and take the 2 hours, full 2 hours to educate them and take them through every single aspect of this process that I know they need to know, we would probably have a lot more of issues. We do have some buyers. I just got somebody about a month ago that didn't have all of their closing costs. They didn't have any closing costs. And I talked to them right up front about getting a gift. And I know that can be a touchy subject sometimes, but it's something that I will put out there right off the bat, and I will educate them on our market and tell them, you know, totally, it's okay if you don't. I could never call my mom when I bought my first house for a gift, you know, so they don't feel weird about it. But I bring that up before we even hit the market and let them know what's going on. My client was able to get a gift, and not a full gift, but for her, we went a little bit further out than where the heavier parts of the military, at least community, are looking. So we went into Lakewood. Great house though, and honestly, we kind of got lucky with that one. That agent didn't price the listing competitively enough, in my opinion. So we kind of snuck in there, and there was 3 other offers, and those other offers needed full closing costs, and so we got our offer accepted. That's one situation. You know, I'm having a lot of our clients lately that have been researching the market though. So they've been saving. I'm telling my clients, if they're, you know, a couple months out, save your stimulus checks, save your tax returns, save that money. A lot of our clients though that are VA, they are having 22 ADs, thankfully. And they're getting those gifts from, you know, whoever they're able to, or they just did a sign-on bonus with the military, you know. But even, you know, if you don't have $15,000, sometimes it's even tougher, you know. And so it really depends. Every situation's different. So we just talk them through it. But yeah, those ones that don't have cash, we're very, very direct with it without embarrassing them. And then we'll go to Rochester or Tumwater. I've done a lot of new constructions lately. And even new constructions are getting competitive, but not all the time. And so new constructions, I think we have 6 right now under contract, which usually we only have 1 or 2 this time of year. So that's another option as well, because a lot of builders will allow you to wrap in those closing costs.
Have you noticed though that when you are having the conversation about the 22AD, are you talking about where they can move money on the chessboard? Like if they were going to put down $10,000 in earnest money, dropping it to 5 and taking 5 and putting it on the AD is the gamble, or if they're doing, you know, 5% down on an FHA and they don't have to do that, but they're choosing to do that to lower their payment, are you having a discussion of moving maybe part of that 5% over to the AD as the gamble to protect on the appraisal and to look better for the seller?
Sure. If earnest money, I haven't really gone that route with it. However, if they are putting down a down payment, some of our VA is doing that as well. 100%. I will let them know, you know, that's great. I think that, you know, if you're putting down 5% or more, your VA funding fee goes down. So that's amazing. But even if you're doing that, or if you're not doing that much, hey, this is where you can probably, number one, you can buy down your rate as well. So that's going to help you in the long run as well. But definitely put it towards your 22 AD, and this is why. And I really go deep with them on what's going on in the market. And you know, you don't want to miss out, because we're spending 6 months looking for a house, and then boom, rates are way higher, and now your payment's even higher than that, right? So I really do spend the time to fully educate them on all aspects of their decision. And then I always end it with, it is 100% your decision, and I'm going to fight for you regardless. It's very well known that my team does not shy away from, you know, a hard fight, and we take on the underdogs a lot. And I make sure that our buyers know that, but I give them the knowledge to be able to get out of their own way and make that decision.
Even being 15 months pregnant, you're still a fighter.
I'm so pregnant. You guys.
If I can add something to the VA part, so I've had sellers, you know, because everything's in the news and Facebook and all that, everybody sees all kinds of things. So I've had sellers ask me, well, isn't it, we don't want to take a VA offer, right? And something that I would say is, well, sometimes a VA offer can actually be better. And I'll tell you why, because when we do have a problem with the appraisal, so going back, actually, VA is, I believe, the only loan program that you're actually approved for. If it's conventional, if it's FHA, if it's whatever, you're hypothetically approved. But VA is the only one that you're at. If they give you an approval, and the lender knows what they're doing, they give you an approval, you are approved. There is no final underwriting issue that's going to come up unless something changes. So not only that, but with VA, you at least have some options in a appraisal problem. So if the appraiser goes out there and they see that the numbers aren't lining up, they immediately issue a tidewater, and that gives everybody a chance to help the appraiser. And if you still can't figure it out, then you can ask for a reconsideration of value. And if that doesn't work, you can actually get a risk-based assessment, which the VA will allow the buyer. There's no way to pre-qualify for it. It's just when it happens, you have to go for it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the lender will allow 107% of the loan to value. So let's say you had a $115,000 offer, it only appraised for 100, you can at least get to 107, you know, without the buyer putting any more cash out of pocket other than the difference in the payment. So there's a lot more good with VA than I think is presented a lot of times.
Well, I think yes, you make a good, and I'm glad you talked about the risk assessment, 107% of that. That's really a very telling moment when you share that, because it's almost like its own invisible AD, right? And, you know, and it could be used that way. I think what's even more, you know, when you say to a seller, this VA buyer earned the right to have this because they served our country, and the interest rate is 3%, and his credit is so good that he can qualify for 100% of the price of his home to be covered by the VA. Wow, wouldn't you leverage your money that way? I would say that back to the seller. Wouldn't you too leverage your money that way if you could? If a conventional lender didn't tell you you had to put 15 or 20% down, and you could go 100% down at 3.5%, wouldn't you do that all day long? And most of the time the sellers go, well, yeah, right? And that's pretty eye-opening to them when you explain it backwards to them, that this veteran qualified for the right with his credit to go 100% on his loan.
And that's the thing too, is it's so funny to me when I hear, you know, certain people say, well, VA, they don't have any money. Nah, that's not really the case. But would you put a down payment down if you didn't have to? and you weren't going to have to pay any extra insurance and all of that, heck no, I'm going to keep that, right? I mean, unless I want to really put a big down payment down and lower that, obviously, but they don't have to, they don't have to. But VA has money. The military dangles those bonuses to re-sign. They just did it to my husband last month. So they have money, and they are such a strong loan. The only thing I'll add, Bobby, to what you were saying is just to make sure people know that it really is dependent on the lender. So not to say that, oh, if you have a pre-approval, it's 100% going to go through, because there are some banks that really don't do their job. And so you, as the buyer agent and the listing agent, it is a responsibility to know what you're looking at and knowing the reputation of what that lender is doing. And they do go under final underwriting. But again, making sure that you're educating those buyers on, don't go buy the new Lamborghini car on credit and screw your credit up last second.
Go out and spend that stimulus.
And, that's another thing that I do as a buyer agent when I'm talking to the listing agents is, hey, I paint that full picture that Bobby's saying. And that's why it's so good to know the loans, know the FHA loan, know the VA loan, so you can fight for these loans and show them the value behind it. But I go again, and I tell these listing agents, hey, I educate my buyers 100%. They know not to mess up their credit. They know what's going on in the market. I've already told them that they probably lost this 22 AD, because I do. I don't blow smoke to my buyers. Even if I think it will appraise, I tell them to kiss that money goodbye, so they love me at the end if they don't have to. But they know that 100%, like, you better have that. And if grandma's giving you that gift, I need to make sure that you do. And I tell the listing agent that as well. If they're not getting a gift, this is 100% their funds, especially if it's a government loan, like VA, because there's all of those misconceptions out there. And really, I'm educating listing agents in a professional way. I don't have an ego when I'm talking to people. I think that's your biggest killer, if you show your ego. I don't think that does anybody any justice. But I'm educating them very professionally. I tell them I don't want to step on your toes, but just so you know, A, B, and C, and this is what I want to educate you on as well. But yeah, lender's very important. So that would be another thing I would say. If you're dealing with VA, especially, or FHA, make sure that they have a solid lender that's going to call the listing agent, and that's going to really bring it home for you guys. Sorry, I was long-winded, Bobby.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Oh, did I lose somebody? Did I freeze?
Oh, Bobby, you were muted. Rachel, I hear you though.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well said, Amber. Yeah, nothing's nothing until it's done. But sometimes you have better chances with certain people or certain lenders. Yeah, and as a listing agent, I always call the lenders.
I have a question. So when you put that, so if you're sending the listing agent like a professional letter about you and your business and how you operate, would you also put about the loan also? So that way the seller sees that letter and knows and is more informed about the VA buyer. Because like you said, the listing agent may not know. Like, I think we submitted an offer to, she seemed young, and, and I wish I had shared more about the VA loan and such for my buyers, because it was a very solid offer anyways. But going back to my question, would you put the information about the VA loan in the letter to the seller?
Good question. Yeah, we have a full cover letter, and I'm happy to share that with whoever would like to see it. I can't tell you how. I'll send it to you, Rachel. I can't tell you how many times, and my buyer agents on here too, me and Ashley have gotten kudos for how our offer is presented, and that makes a difference. I mean, I can't tell you how much it's a template. We've always used it, and in there is a professional letter from us. And I am telling them, number one, who we are. I tell them how we run, and I'm letting them know who the preferred lender is. If it's my preferred lender, which is typically who we work with, why that's so important. And then I also, in the email, I will put a little blurb. I don't go into too much depth because I know not all, but a lot of agents are very high D, not even half, I'm sure, but I know myself, I'm a high D, and I don't read everything in an email, I'll skim. So I do put it in there as far as my lender. It doesn't cost the seller that extra $1,000 working with VA that it used to. And I click that on the 22A, obviously, but I also make sure that they know working with this specific buyer, it wouldn't cost your seller anything extra. That is something I put in every single one. And then the majority of what I'm educating them on is over the phone. And why that is because, again, I never want to sound like I have an ego. I never want to disrespect an agent. I never want to act like I know everything, because I don't. And I want them to really love what I'm saying and be receptive to it. And so that all happens over the phone. So I can be sure to start it with, hey, I don't want to step on your toes. I know you probably do know this, or you might not know this, but just to fight for my buyer, A, B, and C, just so you understand the VA loan. And then my lender also will answer and field any questions or concerns that they have.
Sometimes you can always start with, I know you already know this, but I just wanted
to. Yeah.
Who is your preferred lender on VAs, Amber?
I work with Michael Villano, not Mark. That's his brother. I work with Michael Villano with Veterans Lending Group. He's the number 2 VA specialist in the entire state of Washington, and his team is solid. He's actually the reason I got licensed. So they definitely go above and beyond every single time.
And I found that to be true. I'm working with Kyle at Veterans in DuPont, and
I love Kyle.
Their team does a great job. Great job.
Kyle's awesome. We always joke that we've never gotten to work together before, but we keep almost working together, and then it never happens. But he's really good as well.
Yeah, yes.
I hope that answered your question, Rachel.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
What else? Anybody have any questions or anything?
Yes, I have another question. Review dates. I'm seeing a lot of 7 to 8 day review dates, and I'm wondering about the purpose behind that, because it ties up the buyers in waiting when they could be making an offer on something else, and then hearing listing agents go, oh, we got like 40, 50 offers. And I'm like, okay, but, and they're like, oh, they were pretty much all the same price. And I'm like, well, why, what was the rationale behind so many days to have 40 offers, and then to tell 39 people their offer wasn't accepted after waiting so long, when they could be, putting an offer on somebody else's home?
I can't answer that because I don't agree with that. Bobby, you got anything?
No.
I only do an offer review date when the seller wants it. I go through in the listing process, like Amber said before, I'm going to explain to you these different options, but everything is your choice. And I just want to be to provide you the knowledge and the expertise and everything, so you can make a better decision. So there's several different ways of looking at it. But honestly, more often than not, they just want the most money and the best offer, and sometimes it takes that long to get it. But I think not having a review date sometimes has its pluses and minuses, and the opposite too. Sometimes you'll get somebody who just throws everything at it and says, I'd like to get this accepted today, and this is what we'll do to get it accepted today. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think the market is what it is, and we can blame the market, but we can't really blame everybody for doing what they want to do with it. So
I usually list on a Thursday, Rachel, and I review on Monday. Sometimes Sunday. The reason I do that is because I want to let everybody see it. But I think going, again, I don't agree with going longer. I'm sure that there's good intention with that. I just don't understand it. I'm also a heavy buyer agent though. So I'm with you on that. I think that it's too long, and you know, why lead these poor buyers on for that long, you know, if you don't need to.
Exactly.
On the listing side,
also.
I was able to show my clients this, because I save them, the graphs that we get off the hit counter, right? So on my listings, I'll keep those graphs, and I store them in a, you know, just a file where I can go find all of them. And the inclination in today's market is, and we all know that is that it climbs out really fast the first day. It might climb out a little bit more the second day on viewings, but by the third day, it drops off like a lead brick. And by using that strategy or using that example, those graphs off the hit counter, I'm able to educate the sellers that you don't need to go past 3 days. The ones that want it are going to come the first or the second day, and it's going to be over pretty much, you know. And I just got into one last night that had 6 days. They went active at 10 a.m. We booked our first appointment, the Vashon, for today. And by 7 o'clock last night, he'd gone pending with a 6-day review period. Now, how many people do you think got in to see that house? So it was kind of sad.
Where do you get your hit counter from, Debbie? Am I on mute? Okay, I'm not on mute.
It's on Matrix, Rachel, and when you click on the, if you're the listing agent, you
Yes.
click on the listing, and normally you'll see your tab for when it shows as an active listing. When you click on the listing, it'll show your reverse prospecting. You know what that view is? Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of leaving it as an active listing, go to the drop-down screen right above it, above your active listing. And if you scroll down on that, where it'll say active, unlisted, off market, and in that group is a thing that says hit counters. And if you click on the hit counter button, then it'll pull up everything you have active. And off on the right-hand side, it will be a number. And that far right-hand side, that number is how many hits that has had. And you click on that number and it opens up a graph. And you have two choices. You can just look at the agent portals, how many agents have viewed it. And then if you click the box below, it'll say clients. So you'll have both the agents and the client viewings and clicks. And you can see each category of who's looking at it. And it makes a beautiful graph for the client.
Okay. So do you
educate buyers too? You could show them a few of those graphs off your listings and show them how quickly people move into these listings and how quickly it falls off.
Okay.
So Amber, I got a question for you.
Yes.
How many times have you made an offer on a listing, not gotten it, but gotten a call 2 or 3 or whatever days later and said, hey, does your buyer still want it?
Can I tell you in the last 2 months how many times that's happened? Twice in the last 2 months.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And I was, you know, it's happened multiple times, but it has been more common. I mean, I know 2 times doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is, in my opinion. And it's really cool. I mean, I was eating dinner, I'll never forget. And my poor buyer had written like 10 offers, and I got the call and I was like, babe, I gotta go. And I ran outside and got under contract shortly after that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you leave a lasting impression. Even if you don't get the offer the first time, there's still a chance, you know, just like Dumb and Dumber, that meme. So we didn't get it this time, but you're saying there's a chance. How about you, Kim? How many times have you gotten a call back after the fact and you didn't win the offer initially, but you weren't a jerk when you left and they called you back?
It has happened a couple of times for me, and I try to, you know, celebrate with that listing agent, even when our offer doesn't get accepted, that, you know, congratulations for you and your seller, and just like you said, not be a jerk. People are sometimes incredibly rude and take serious offense when their offer is not accepted. And it's tough to be on the listing side. It's tough to make those phone calls and let people down. It breaks my heart for every one of those buyers that didn't get it. But they're doing the best job. We do the best job we can for our sellers and help them make the right decision. And so, yeah, it's important to just be nice and friendly and appreciative that they took the time to call you and let you know that you didn't get it, and that they took the time to consider the offer, and let them know that, hey, we're here and we're ready. If anything happens with this offer, you call me. We're ready to go.
Mhm.
It
Kind of like
happens.
speed dating, they
Yeah.
might go around the room and then realize you were the best one all along.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
true.
God, that's hilarious. I love it.
And
You
they're,
can't take it personally. They're doing the best they can.
and I bet you they're not calling. I don't think I was the second in place the last time it happened, but that agent was like not happy with whoever was. And so they won't call you probably.
Yeah.
Obviously it's up to the seller, but I wouldn't be surprised if the agent is saying like, hey, this is the report I got from that agent. You don't know what they're telling their sellers, and so yeah, don't be a jerk. It really,
Yeah,
I,
a lot of times, so a lot of times I'll share information that I think is helpful, depending, based on the character or things that have been said and stuff like that. Because honestly, once the offer gets accepted, that's when the work starts. And that's when you have the really important thing. So for the seller to take their house off the market and then put it back on, that can be devastating to their bottom line. So so character and how it's presented, and was the agent cool, were they not cool, did they make a bunch of mistakes, did they call me a total a-hat, all those things, because you got inspections, you've got all kinds of things that are going to come up after the contract's accepted. So being cool can go so far, and then you never know, that agent that you just wrote that offer on and you told them to F off, they got the next house on the market. Uh-oh. So
yeah. And on the listing side, I had to tell a bunch of agents that they didn't win. And I always am super nice. And I think sometimes it surprises them because I am so buyer heavy. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, and I feel so bad. And the next offer I was writing, one of those agents was the listing agent. I was like, man, I'm glad I'm a good person, because that would have been awkward. And then also, yeah, Bobby, what you said about the package, you guys, how you're sending those offers matters. I can't tell you how many times there's like a bunch of missed boxes, and sometimes it's like half filled out and I'm over here like my soul is dying. But again, the cover letter and all that, when I see a really put together offer on the listing side, I'm like, man, I want to talk to that agent, because I know that once we get into this is going to be a lot smoother. So let me call this agent and kind of talk to them a little bit and see what they're about.
yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. And Kim said the same, it kind of goes along the same lines. You want to know that you're dealing with somebody that appears like they've done this before, and they take it seriously, they care. And they've read the listing, so they're not asking redundant questions or questions that have already been answered somewhere else. But sometimes you're in the car or something like that, you didn't have time to look it up. It's different, but then you get offers with missing information and forward authenticines. I don't you can't respond to those. So if somebody, and I've gotten offers where somebody put me in the authenticine, I get the offer and I don't even have their email. So if I reply to it, received, thank you, and then, hey, where's the pre-approval letter, or hey, answer this for me, they're not getting it because it doesn't have their email as part of the thing. So take it seriously.
Something I want to add too is not to say all these things and then, it's putting the impression that, oh, you do all of this and I'm going to get every offer accepted. because it's just not the case. It's still hard. I mean, we just showed a buyer 75 houses, and my whole team worked with that buyer. And Ashley Duvall in here, she's my buyer agent. She's the one that brought it home. We wrote well over 15 offers. I think she said it came down to 16 or 17, and they were very particular. They would not budge on price. They would not budge on location. They were like, it's cool, we'll sit in a hotel. And so you still have those even with doing everything. But I will tell you that Ashley, just last night, we did a live on Facebook, and she was like, well, what do I say about this success story? I feel like we just got lucky. And it's not being lucky. It's you're going to see more opportunities arise if you are running your business this way and you are writing these offers this way, because I rely on the people that know my reputation more than anything right now, because they do know what we're about. And so it's the long haul. And, you could write one offer, you could write 17 offers, but if you're having that same mindset and you're doing it every single time and you're not giving up on your buyer, you're gonna get to the finish line. Hopefully it doesn't cost you 75 houses and 17 offers. That was a record for our team.
Whatever it takes, right?
We made
Whatever it takes.
And they ended up going above their price point, but when the appraisal came in, and because we set, clear expectation, it did come in well lower, but it was an easy negotiation, and they ending up with their price point that they wanted all along in the long run. So it was great. But that's our Cinderella story. So I just don't want people to think like, oh, I'm going to do a cover letter and I'm going to be nice and I'm going to do all this stuff, and now I'm just going to get every offer accepted. It's it is the long haul and it takes work, but if you just keep doing it, I mean, we have a ton of buyers that we've given good news to in the last couple months.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. You're in it for the long haul, because this is a tough business, and that's why it has so much opportunity. So you have to have patience, and success is preparation meeting opportunity. And so you're always going into it with the idea that this is just one step closer, and one step farther in the right direction, and get so tied into the outcome, and just put it together well and do your thing, and eventually it's going to work. Sometimes it's on the first one, sometimes it's on the 75th one. So
one of the things that we've been saying in the conversations we've been having is not necessarily with clients, but with each other, is that you can be the best agent in the world, and your offer in this situation has a lot more to do with your client than it does with your abilities and skills as an agent. However, that being said, how you go through this, and Amber, I really appreciate all the stuff that you said about how you go through this professionally and nice and whatever, but that benefits your clients, because now you have a better chance, given the same client criteria and qualifications, to get the house. You have a better, you're increasing their chance of getting the home because of your professionalism. So we're limited by the offers we can present, but we get a better chance at those offers being accepted through how we conduct our business. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. I was going to say something, pregnant brain. Shoot, it was a good one too.
Hey, I was going to add something. Oh, are you
going to write it down before you forget it again? Write it down.
I know you're pregnant, so you better say it first.
Oh, go ahead. I got it.
Hey, no, I was just going to add, just on one of my recent listings that closed over in Auburn, which is a whole different entity, but with 20 something offers on there, I'll just tell you right now, only 2 lenders called. And it goes a long way when you're on the listing side to hear a lender call you at 8 o'clock at night and talk about that buyer passionately and how secure they are in their financing. To me, that goes a long ways. Also, it goes a long ways on the listing side, to me, is it drives me nuts when I just see an offer sitting in my email and no one's even called or shot me a text or anything just to say, hey, it's me out here fighting for my buyer. You just happen to see in your email, oh, there's an offer. With no passion, especially in this market, no voice attached to it. And I think as a buyer on the buying side of it, I really think, like Amber and Bobby were saying, you have to go all out. You can't just excuse my language, half-ass it.
Yeah, it might be, that offer might be sitting in their spam email. You don't even know.
And I had one that was.
I
Mhm.
had
It
that.
happens. It does.
But I
So,
think the lender thing goes a long way. It really does.
It totally does. Oh my gosh. I had 32 offers, you guys, 32 on my Tacoma listing a couple weeks ago. And really, and when you hear that too, because that's something we'll get discouraged about, and Ashley and I will talk about it. She's like, oh my God, there's 50 offers, you know? So 32 offers, 6 were competitive. And I had 2 or 3 lenders call me. And so, yeah, don't just think, oh, there's all these offers and all of them are competitive, you know, be that one that stands out for sure. Oh, I think we lost Bobby. What I was going to say a couple minutes ago was, tell your buyers what you're doing, because that too, you know, is kind of like a silver lining of, yeah, we're writing 17 offers on this. And I could probably hear Ashley's tears from the other side of the computer, because she still is emotional about it. But we wrote 17 offers, but we don't act like our buyers are putting us out. We never like, well, I had to do this and I had to do this, and oh my gosh, no. But we tell them, we're fighting for you. This is what we're doing. We asked your lender to call. We did this. And we do that, number one, so they know that we are in it. We're not just here working a 9 to 5 and now we turn our phone off and whatever. If we get the offer, great. But if not, I don't care. They know that we're just as much in it as they are. And that is a huge reason why we're so referral based. Our clients know that we are right there with them and we are fighting for them every single day. And I will make sure they know, like, this is what's going on. I had this really great rapport with the agent. I did this and this, you know, and it's a balancing act, because you don't want to just toot your own horn and, you know, be that person, but just slipping that in there every now and then and letting them know what you're doing is really important, because sometimes they don't know, and they don't know how hard it is on our end. So don't have that go unnoticed, for sure. And just the simple words of, I'm fighting for you, speaks volumes to that buyer, because they're like, man, okay, cool, like, we're in this, you know, and it kind of pumps them up too.
sure. Yeah. And I think it, you know, just like any team, it's kind of a team thing. And, you know, when you have a quarterback that you know is really doing their best, it makes you feel better about blocking. It makes you, you know, it makes the buyer feel more confident and comfortable with what they're doing, so they can make better offers and faster decisions. So, yeah, absolutely. Well put. Do you guys want to hear what questions I ask lenders when I call on an offer that we've received? And I can tell you that when I do get a call from a lender answering these exact questions or close on my voicemail or something like that, I love it that I don't have to actually carve out time to sit and talk to lenders. I mean, to sit and call all the lenders, that they've actually called me. But so normally what I do when I call the lender is I just say, hey, this is Bobby Brown with Keller Williams and Puyallup. One of your clients made an offer on one of my listings, and I just real quick wanted to ask you a few questions. You got a minute? And, you know, yes, I got a minute. And say, well, first of all, you know, believe it or not, this has happened, but is this pre-approval legitimate? Did you write this for 550,000? And they'll say, oh yeah, it's, you know, to maybe tell them a little short story about how I actually had pre-approval letters sent to me on listings that the buyer's agent drafted themselves. And then I'll just go in. I just got a couple questions. You know, have they actually made application? Have you guys physically met and signed an application? Have they given you all their documents? Have you actually plugged them in the system? You know their credit score, everything's good to go. And normally they'll say, yep, yeah, everything's good to go. Maybe they'll tell me a little story. And then I go into the deal killers. These are all the things that have killed deals in the past. You know, I just wanted to check, are there any pending or recent divorces? Have they had any contract work or self-employment income that's being factored in? Or is it all just slam dunk W-2? Is there anything in their life that has to change? Do they need to sell anything? Does their credit need to improve, or anything like that? You know, and typically the answer is no, but sometimes, well, yeah, they got the house that they have to sell in Spokane, and really, you know, and just those quick questions, so you know that, you know, number one, the lender knows what they're doing, and two, that the buyer appears to be as solid as they can be. But when I get a call from a lender that calls me and says, hey, this is Stephen Wright with Movement Mortgage. Hey, I know you got an offer from Amber McDonald, and I just wanted to let you know we have met with her. She is approved. I've checked all the documents. We pulled credit. There's nothing funny. Everything's great. And that's a phone call I don't have to make, and that's amazing, especially when you're running like crazy and you have to call 27 lenders. You know, so that has a lot of weight to it when a lender calls you and just gives you that quick little voicemail or whatever, or vote of confidence for their buyer that's legitimate. So
100%.
all right, I rambled there a little bit. What else? Anybody got any questions? We're 10 minutes over an hour, but I got time if you guys want to talk about stuff. Anybody?
I put a note, Bobby, in the chat box about how are you guys coaching your buyers on love letters?
It cut out a little bit.
How are you coaching your buyers on love letters?
Oh, so I don't know if there is any issue with discriminatory things as a sender, but there can be as the receiver. So a seller, there is a potential that if you say something in your letter like this is a great family or this is a great couple or, you know, whatever, that it could be looked at as discriminatory. And so when I have a buyer, which I think the letters are a good idea, it's worth trying, but you got to be careful about what you say in them and make sure that it's not too baloney. It's really specific to the house. If you can even, you know, like that covered back patio, man, I love that, you know, or you know, whatever, just something like that. Or my sister lives next door, you know, something that's specific to the house rather than just a clearly repetitive letter that is just, I mean, the agent is literally just filling in the buyer's name and having them sign it. You know, you can tell it's generic. I think helps a lot, and just kind of just trying to steer clear of those discriminatory things. So the seller's agent and the seller feel more comfortable reading it.
Yeah, I think they're obviously making a difference in some of the listings I've had with some of my sellers. They actually, it came down to letters on occasion. But I did have an example of one, so several years back, where I was showing an Eastern Indian family multiple homes in Bellevue. And one of the homes that we went into that they really liked was owned apparently also by an Eastern Indian family. And I didn't know enough about, well, I knew enough to catch it, but he actually called out some of the artwork. And one of those pieces of artwork was a plate on the counter in the kitchen. And I recognized it as a Hindu plate from just happen chance that I happened to even know it because a friend of mine that I did business with in the oil industry had it. So I knew what it was. And I realized that he was trying to send a signal to the sellers to potentially position himself on his ethnicity. And I actually gave him the letter back and said, that would fall under the discrimination rules. And I don't have a problem submitting your letter, but you need to take that out. And he did, because he knew he'd been busted and he took it out. So it's hard to kind of coach them sometimes as to what those things are, you know, what they can and cannot say.
Yeah. Yep. You know, I've got no problem with anybody, really, but that doesn't mean that someone's going to see it differently. So what else?
I have a super quick question about inspections. If, let's say, buyers are not comfortable, you know, waiving an inspection, what would be like the next best competitive way to write an offer, as far as like the inspection terms, at least?
That it's pass or fail, that you're not going to nitpick,
Okay.
that it's basically the purpose of it is going to be exactly what it's intended for, to make sure there's no significant issues that you couldn't see with your naked eye. Make sure that the crawl space isn't flooded and the roof isn't leaking, and that's just the stuff that it's for, not the nitpicky stuff. Is one thing that we've used. You can write it in there even that that the inspection is for information purposes only, because I think even if you're waiving the inspection or the contingency to ask for anything or change anything, you should still do one. That's something you can do. You can write it in as this is information purposes only, or you can write in that a portion of the earnest money is non-refundable. So there's at least a piece of it that the seller is guaranteed to get. So if they're taking the house off the market for 30 days, they get $1,500, or something like that covers their mortgage. What else, Amber? What else was that? A baby kick, or was that an idea?
I was looking at Kelly's face.
Oh.
I was going to throw up earlier. Now I just want to find the news. Kidding. Just kidding. If
What?
you want to do non-refundable earnest money, please do not do it without Dave and I talking to you first. Okay.
Yeah, we got that. We've got a pretty long, drawn out.
Very particular. Dave and I are talking about your inspections and how to help your buyers understand that when they don't do it, they're actually putting themselves in jeopardy, not this week, but maybe in 3, 4, 5 years from now, which is what we see after a shift in market. So Dave and I are working on a few things behind the scenes for so remember, on all of the down payment assistance requires an inspection. And from what I'm hearing from not just Movement, but most of the mortgage companies, is they're just looking for an invoice.
That's scary.
They're just looking for an invoice. So they're not looking for a report. And it is very scary. So one of my favorite lenders, not Steve, said that he's worried that if we start getting invoices for $129, $75, that the commission's going to get a wind of that, and they're going to start asking for the reports. So be careful. Just be careful. And we would much rather say that the inspection is for buyer's information, and buyer will make no repairs or concessions, or will pass or fail based upon safety issues, the same thing that we would have in any other appraisal. Mm-hmm. So be careful out there. I don't want you sued.
Make sure that it's the buyer's call. You're just providing information and options, but it's their call. And sometimes it's a good thing to get it in writing that you didn't make this up, and this is not your call, it's their call.
Yeah, that's what we write. It's very rare when we'll waive inspections, and 100%, it is never, ever our advice. And I was on a mastermind with Bobby and Carrie not too long ago. And something that we do is when my buyers or my buyer agent's buyers want to waive, yes, it's in obviously all of the documentation in the contract that they're signing. But again, a lot of people don't read. And so we, on top of that, our standard on our team is if they're waiving, you have that in writing, either in a text or an email, where you are telling them, hey, these are the liabilities. I 100% advise getting an inspection. I support whatever you want to do, but this is what that is. And then we save that for if that ever comes up later. It's rare when we do. We've kind of messed with the verbiage. Again, I'm huge with psychology, so I'm a little nitpicky with how we present things. I don't do the pass fail verbiage anymore. it could just be me being weird, but I don't want to put it in the minds of a seller that it could fail, right? And so if I have an anxious seller, I don't know if I have them on the other side or not. So as a buyer agent, I don't even want to tell them it's going to fail. With them, I want the rainbows and butterflies, right? I don't want them to just see like, oh, pass or fail. Well, what if it fails? They're just going to walk away. This person has a waived inspection. I'm going to go with them. So we changed that to informational only. Buyer does not intend to make repairs. I got pushback on that from an agent once. So we pulled the intend verbiage out of there. And now we say in an addendum, informational only, buyer will not ask for repairs or concessions. And then they're still safe because they can still back out. But then on top of that too, is we have full in-depth conversations on what that means to our buyers of, hey, are you sure that, you are not going to ask for anything, because we're not going to nitpick them, and you don't want to go down that road because they're going to get a bad taste in their mouth. We want it to be a win-win. So are you 100% certain you're okay with this? If there's bigger issues like the crawl space and roof and things like that, we don't just back out. And it's only happened, I think, once since we've been writing this verbiage, but I'll call the agent and I'll say, hey, this is what's going on with the roof. They were going to back out, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to fix it just in case that comes up down the road. And that agent did it. So they ended up saying, no, we're okay with fixing this. But that's how I presented that. So it's not like we're going back on our verbiage, but we were giving them the opportunity so we didn't have to back out if they were up for fixing the repair.
Yeah, because ultimately, if it is something significant, the seller's got to fix it anyways. So, so don't just back out. And I've actually had a seller ask that, well, what if there is a problem? I don't want them to back out. Well, no, we'll handle that when we get there. Mm-hmm. So what else? Kelly, did we do a good job and not cross any lines?
I think you're awesome. I appreciate how you were spot on about the love letters. I appreciate that you let me hear. And I wasn't too much of a playground teacher. I really try not to be like that. And then one of the things we're seeing here is, and I get feedback from cross agents and other offices and the like, is take your time writing your offer. Take your time making sure that the form's in order, make sure there's not extra crap in there, make sure that it's clean. Take your time. It's just not an industry that you can do part-time anymore. It's just too hard. And if you got to do it part-time, buddy up with somebody so that you can have a full-time together. At the end of the day, the cleaner the offer, the better it's going to look.
And it's all about increasing your odds. Mm-hmm. So nothing's guaranteed. Like Amber said, you can do the best you possibly can and still lose. But it's just about increasing your odds and playing the long game and sticking with it.
We're always here. Dave and I are always here, more than willing to help you think about it, talk about it, work it out just at the end of a phone. Please take advantage of us. You're paying a cat. You may as well take advantage of us because that's how we get paid. You're a cat.
Amber's talking about psychology. I might have to call Amber.
I love it. I will.
I'm messed up. I got all kinds of problems.
I don't love that kind of stuff. Okay. I got a husband of my own, but I do love psychology within real estate. So anybody want to nerd out with me? I'm happy to help.
And honestly, there's a lot to it. And you could teach anybody a script and somebody can say the same words, but if you're not watching your tonalities and the other person's tonalities, and you're not just kind of taking your time with it, it can be the difference. Mm-hmm. So
it definitely matters for sure. And it really, the tone, oh, my husband, his tone, he's coming on as a full-time buyer agent and I love him. And he is so good at what he does and such a people person, but that man's tone, I'm like, you're going to get yourself fired. We need to train on this. So it does matter. Also, I cut out. And so I did see some people in the chat that wanted our cover letter. If you guys want to just email me or just put it in the chat now, I'll take down the names before I sign off. Sorry. All the previous chat boxes went away.
Hey, Amber,
I think Brianna had it.
I already have them.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. I love you, Bree. I would die
Welcome.
without her. Bree also looks at my offers before I send them. Just to be sure. She's my buddy. That you
And
said.
the ones that come in on our listings. It's me that's like, why are they in multiple documents?
Mhm. Yeah, where's the 22D? It's in the addenda, but it's not in there. I love that. I
Yep.
Yeah. Know your strengths also. Know
Mhm.
your strengths.
What else? Anybody else got anything? Rachel?
I know, right? Hold on,
I
let
can see
me-
you moving.
I know. Thank you so much for having this. And I know I had lots of questions, and I was feeling a little bad for my clients. I was like, maybe I'm not doing well enough for them, but it looks like I'm doing a lot of right things. And it looks like there are also things that I can improve on. So I'm grateful for you guys having this. And Amber, thank you for making yourself available, because I'm going to be reaching out to you here soon to schedule a time to chat about some things, because I'm VA and I work with VA buyers also. So it would be helpful to help them out also.
100%. Yeah, call me anytime. I mean, especially because even in a couple weeks, I have to take maternity leave and I don't sit and do nothing well. So like, call me, girl, because I'm just gonna be sitting, not sleeping, but being here.
I'm up late and I'm up early. So, and I have 5 kids, so I can understand.
You're a saint. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, well, thank you all. I'm going to get going. I have an appointment here soon. So thank you
All right,
so
thank you
much,
guys.
Bobby.
Be well.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
Amber.
Thank you, Bobby, for
Thank you,
putting this
Kelly.
together and asking me to be a part of it. I love it. I'm always happy to do things like this. I think we need to pour into each other a little bit more, especially
I
now.
agree. I agree. Yeah, we'll think of something else here, and maybe we'll do something again in a month or so. All
Cool.
Thank you.
right, take care, guys.
Bye, guys.